Everyone, a very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Dr. Farhat, an assistant professor at University of Management and Technology in the Department of Economics. I am here. We have this webinar keeping in view the global challenges of the economic crisis faced after the COVID-19. The University of Management and Technology and Golden Ring Economic Forum have initiated a series of webinars regarding the idea shared economic recovery after COVID-19. The basic concept of this shared economic recovery is to develop the resources for the joint economic recovery within the countries that are the members of the Global Ring Economic Forum. And here, no, I think so everyone is here. Our panelists are here, and some participants are also here. Now, I would like to hand over the meeting to the president of Golden Ring Economic Forum, Mr. Sir Hussain Raza Mirza. So I would request to Sir Hussain Raza Mirza, please join the meeting and take the meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Farhat. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's good. That's good. I welcome all of you, sir, and Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, especially you, sir. Yes, and in the seminar. So let me start with something. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna Allaha malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslimat. Allahumma salli ala. So, Excellency and all my guests who are here and our participants, welcome to all in this webinar. Our topic and the theme is shared economic recovery, post-corona shared economic joint recovery for the economies of all the countries. So I will just take a few minutes and to introduce to you all the Golden Ring Economic Forum and the basic concept of this initiative of GREF, of the shared economic recovery. Just to start with, our this Golden Ring concept was initiated, it was conceived back in 2010 that there should be a bloc of 5 countries: Pakistan, China, Iran, Russia, and Turkey. And so we called it Golden Ring. And then these countries, after that, in 2015, we got this organization registered officially and formally. And now, since then, we have been working on a lot of issues of this organization is working as a think tank and a lobbying group, a strategic economic think tank for policy preparation and for economic cooperation with all these countries, multilateral cooperation. So this is what we are. We have been holding several seminars and conferences, and we have been publishing papers on the topics related to this new economic idea, this initiative of Golden Ring Bloc. Now, we have been, this seminar is part of those our activities. So there will be a series of seminars. The first one is with our Chinese friends. And we would like to, basically, the concept of this initiative of shared economic recovery is that what happened in Corona, this COVID-19 pandemic, all the economies in the region, they went down pretty bad. So the only country which came up and came out, I will say, of this pandemic very successfully, it was China. So we have to learn from them, and we have to take them as a role model. That how can we come out of our economic crisis due to pandemic, and obviously then we would like to see that what role China can play in the economic development of these regional countries. Because now, as President Xi has also said, that shared destiny, he talked. So we are also talking in the same line, that shared economic recovery. So we all are interlinked. We are all, we do have borders common, and we are interlinked historically and everything. So whatever we have to do in the region, we have to do it jointly. So success of one country should become the success of the other countries also. So that is the basic concept of this initiative, that we must join hands, we must pull up our resources and proceed to the economic recovery of these, at least this initially, these 5 countries, Pakistan, Russia, Iran, and Turkey and China together. And then gradually we can, enlarge the circle. So this is basically the basic concept of this webinar. So we want to have the first one is with China. We also would like to have one with Iran, with Russia, with Turkey. So in the due time or in course of time, we will also go for those seminars. So now with these few words, I am once again, I'm grateful for to Excellency the Ambassador Mr. Yao Jing for gracing us as the chief guest and our chair of the webinar. And I request now our chairman, General Sikandar, to come and say a few words, and then we will request the chief guest. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. As a consequence of the COVID-19 crisis, the whole world was turned upside down. The enforced quarantine across the world literally brought all commerce and trade to a standstill. Factories and manufacturing plants were shut down. Goods in transit were stopped for shipment or quarantined at ports. Shops, businesses were shut, and life came to a standstill. This has impacted immensely upon the economies of the countries across the globe. Weaker economies, already under stress, came under more stress and affected the lifestyle of the populace. Worst affected were the daily wage earners and low-income groups with no savings. Governments are now endeavoring to meet these new challenges to already weak economies. To assist in this regard, GREF, the Golden Ring, has started a series of webinars on the subject of shared economic recovery, whereby involving economists, businessmen, and government officials to come forward and discuss how countries could work together to regain the lost economic opportunities and overcome this crisis. While on one side we had the crisis because of COVID-19, on the other side, changing global dynamics, political and regional dynamics have also impacted as to how countries would recover out of these economic crises. We see within our region changes taking place. We see the global war that the US has started against other economies, which also impact them. And as a consequence, one fears that it will take some time for the world to come back to what was once the normal. Therefore, it is essential for all of us countries, especially which are regional countries, to come together to assist each other with ideas and opportunities of how we can come out of this crisis. I would like to thank today's speakers and participants for taking out time to join us and hoping for a very fruitful question and answer session at the end. I would especially like to thank UMT for all the assistance they have provided us in organizing this event. Over to you, Hasnan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. One thing I just forgot, and I have to just one of our co-hosts, the Director General of UMT, he has suffered a heart attack, and he has just gone through a heart bypass operation, so he cannot join us today. He is in the hospital, so let's pray for his early and quick recovery. Now I will request Excellency the Ambassador of China at Islamabad, Mr. Zhao Jing. Sir, will you please share your views with us? Over to you, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, President Mirza. And also I have to thank Lieutenant General Secretary of Third for your kind remarks. And I think that this is a very significant and timely discussion initiated by the GRAPH, or the Golden Ring Economic Forum, to discuss about a shared economic recovery of this region. But I think the topic is a little beyond my my capability, because I'm posted in Islamabad and I'm working for the bilateral, basically, cooperation. So please do forgive me if I just elaborate that some of my ideas about my thoughts or my thinkings about this topic. But I'm glad that I see a lot of quite prominent speakers in today's webinar. So I believe that I can benefit and also learn from the discussion of today's forum. Mr. President and the Chairman and the other participants, I think that exactly as you have pointed out, the current challenge posed by the spread of this pandemic, COVID-19, is giving a lot of unprecedented challenges to the development, not only for the countries, nations, but also for the region and the whole globe. So this kind of shared efforts for economic recovery is very much necessary now. So that is why that this kind of discussion could benefit not only for China, for the region, but also because I think it's a very urgent appeal for the global or the members of the international community to think about it and to work for that. I would like to make a few points. The first is regarding current economy in China, the China's economy now. Although that this pandemic is still spreading all over the world now, but China was the first that had suffered. I think that for the first quarter of this year, that this pandemic was, I think basically it is in China, and it was in China, and the Chinese government and people did a lot of efforts to prevent and control it. Unfortunately, now that it is a global pandemic now. So for the first quarter of this year, that the China's economy shrunk almost 6.8%, and this is quite a big cost and a setback for the economic development of China. But a little fortunately, that with the efforts of all the society, that the second quarter of this year, that means from April to June, we had a moderately growth of about 3.2%. This is a little encouraging. And right now, although we still have a sporadic and individual cases of COVID-19 in China, but generally, I should say the situation is much better. And almost 80 or 98% of the China's economic entities have recovered, and also they are in the full swing of operation and manufacturing. So the situation, if I say that it is a little encouraging in China, however, the situation out of China is still challenging. The second is that the area we are, or the region we are, or that this golden ring, I think that this is a very, very promising ring if that we look at the resources, geographies, and also that look at the locations and the potentials of this ring. But I would like to mention that basically this ring covers a large area of the economic potentials, like natural resources, potential markets, vast populations, and also that is a quite promising future of this. So China and Pakistan, if that we put China and Pakistan in this ring, right now I would like to say that we also have a unique opportunities for our collaboration or Sino-Pak cooperation for a shared recovery of the region. First, Pakistan, I think that the indication has come that you are quite effective and successful in preventing and controlling this COVID-19. Your government, your society have been working very hard to conduct this smart lockdown, and I see that the current indication is quite promising. And your Prime Minister and the government of Pakistan also promised if the situation of this pandemic is much better, then a lot of sectors will be further opened. So this is a kind of, I should say, a promising or encouraging development for the Pakistan. And the second is, I think that with the passage of time, with more technologies or more advancement of the, for example, for the treatment, diagnosis, as well as the vaccine development, that when all these technologies are moving forward, we have more and more hope that in the near future, that we may develop a kind of decisive way in combating or fighting against this COVID-19. And thirdly, that I think just like this webinar, that a lot of awareness or a lot of enthusiasm has been given that on the one hand, we are fighting against this COVID-19. On the other hand, we are preparing and we are working for an economic recovery. Basically, when this kind of pandemic happens, that the survival of the lives, survival of the humanity is at the risk. So that when we are fighting against this COVID-19, we put that the human survival, society survival as the priority. However, for the long-term perspective, the economic revival or the economic recovery also look after that the long-term development or sustainability of the human being or humanity. So I think that right now, for example, that for this region, when China and Pakistan, where China and Pakistan are located, we have already started several initiatives that based on the post-COVID-19 cooperation and to prepare a shared economic recovery. I would like to brief a little about what we are doing with Pakistan and for the sake or for the overall interest of the regional development. For example, China's economy is recovering, but that's because China's economy is too much connected with the global market. So without a regional or global recovery, China's economy is not sustainable. So we are paying equal or as more attention to facilitate and support a regional and global recovery of the economic recovery. As far as this region is concerned, I would like to say that several initiatives. First is that the Chinese government or the Chinese society is doing everything possible to provide assistance for the control and the prevention of this COVID-19 pandemic. Pakistan is a model and also is one of our major partners of this fighting against COVID-19. And right now, for the first stage, we are basically focused on some kind of materials, PPEs, equipment. But right now, we are going to build more these capacities of your medical institutions, like ventilators, some of the medicine materials, some of the capacity buildings. But on this front, I think that we have done a lot to prepare Pakistan for a possible kind of, for example, the unexpected development of this COVID-19. But fortunately, I think your government's efforts, fortunately, your people's discipline have brought a quite good momentum and encouraging momentum. And right now, our also another area of cooperation is the vaccine. We are in contact with your Ministry of Health Service as well as the National Institute of Health, and to make the vaccine available among the first for Pakistan when they are ready. The second is that the China and Pakistan are going to also preparing ourselves for an economic development. I think your government is quite far-sighted that put several actors as the major. For example, your government paid special attention to the employment and for the daily wages, basically is to maintain that the minimum or the minimum economic activities for Pakistan. So for example, construction sector or that the other areas engaging the daily employment. So under this kind of guidance, the Chinese government and your government, Pakistani government, we are also shifted some of the resources and the focus under the CPEC to follow your government's policies. For example, we accelerated this major hydropower stations project in a speedier way, because as long as these projects could be started, a lot of local employment could be created. So these days, I think in May, we finalized the 2 hydropower station projects. Second is that we are mobilizing more these grants for the social sectors. For social sectors, we are going to use our grant to join your affordable housing scheme to donate apartments or houses according to your government's plan. We are going to speed up this hospital and equipment supply for the different localities and the provinces. We are going to speed up these vocational training centers and also smart classrooms, these projects. So right now, I think last week that these facilities for 50 vocational training centers have arrived in Pakistan, and the job or the work for 1,000 smart classrooms has started in Pakistan. So that is that we are following and adjust the CPEC cooperation according to your guidelines and your priorities. This could also mobilize maximum employment and economic activities. Thirdly, is that since right now we still have about 20 ongoing projects under CPEC, so we are doing everything possible to make these ongoing projects to operate in a full capacity. For example, for these power plants, they are providing 1/3 of your electricity during this period. For example, for these Gwadar projects, the new airport, these vocational center, hospitals, they are all started without any kind of suspension. And they are also providing for the local economic dynamics. For the project, for example, entire coal mine, they are all in the full swing. And during this process, we ask our Chinese companies, they should not lay off any single local labor or the employment. Instead, they should encourage and expand their employment and the local share of the labor. This is right now. But on the regional level, on the regional level, this CPEC or China-PAC cooperation could also give a lot of potential with the collaboration for the sake of the whole region. As early as in the late June, China and Pakistan, we started several consultations, not only for the bilateral but also for the regional purposes. For example, we have the trilateral, we call the strategic dialogue between China, Pakistan, Afghanistan. And this is, of course, because the regional dynamics is really quite changing. So the peace process, which I think Pakistan is working very hard on, the reconciliation process in Afghanistan is quite encouraging, and we hope that this peace dialogue could start as soon as possible. But we have to look beyond this reconciliation process. Afghanistan is the key for the economic development of this region, including the Golden Ring region, these areas. So this straight dialogues, of course, for the geopolitical purposes or for the political purposes, we had some kind of discussion. But one of the major area is that we should also offer a kind of connectivity, a kind of facilitations for the future economy of Afghanistan. So your government, I think they gave a good, very good policy to allow or to permit the Gwadar port to transport the transit goods for Afghanistan. So right now, I think Gwadar port has a regional standing, and they are operating or handling the commodities for Afghanistan, I think, since May. This is quite promising, even that in the future, for example, we have quite a lot of these projects in Afghanistan. So we are discussing to have a kind of structured arrangement, for example, for these raw materials or the cements or these kind of steels we can import from Pakistan and send them to Afghanistan for this cooperation because of the regional connectivity. So this is a part. And the last week, or this on this Monday, we had another initiative that is China, along with its three neighbors, land neighbors, Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan. We have the first ever, we call it anti-COVID-19 cooperation. But most part of that discussion was focused to establish a joint mechanism of facilitation of the people-to-people travel or exchanges, facilitation of the material to transportation, to facilitate also that the economic cooperation. China and Pakistan have established this mechanism. So you can see right now the regular flights between China and Pakistan, although it is a less frequency, but it is still running. And in fact, that we also have a plan to open our border in Hongqiao. It's supposed to be during this period, but I hope that maybe after the Eid festival, we will have some kind of, because there are some commodities to be transported on. We also have special services by both the PIA and the Chinese airlines for the necessary people-to-people exchanges, especially for the project we are conducting. So this mechanism has been established, and we would like to copy this mechanism to our collaboration with Afghanistan, with Nepal, because both these two countries have the similar borders with China. So this is thirdly is that we should also look at the different situations or the different orientations of different economies in this region. In a larger sense, for example, that beyond China and Pakistan, that since after when the COVID-19, this pandemic is, if possible, it is under the control, that we can see a lot of new orientations or the new potentials. For example, the digital economy. I think that although that all the sectors globally are suffering, but one sector, I think they are gaining. That is telecommunication. Why? Because a lot of online activities have increased. So this telecommunication, I think, is one part. This gives us a lot of potential for us to explore the digital. For example, I saw a figure that the first quarter in China, the first 3 months of this year in China, our online business, or that this so-called digital economy increased or grows by 18%. So that it is another, I think, potential for us. Then the second is that we also should prioritize our economic projects and agendas, which should be the first, which should be the little second or little later on. And this, I think, need more regional cooperation and regional discussion. That, for example, at this stage, we should have a kind of staged development. With China and Pakistan, with the CPEC, we have already worked on this. And right now we have a structured agenda for the CPEC projects. For example, that after this construction sector, after this, I should say, medical sector and social sector, the second stage we will put more on the agricultural sector, because they engage, this sector engages more population and more employment. And later on, maybe later this year or early next year, we are going to start this railway or other motorway projects again. But in the meanwhile, that not only the government-driven projects between China and Pakistan, we have also started a new forum, we call the business forum, that is to engage the private sector to cooperate with each other, not only for the domestic market of Pakistan, but also we would like to jointly explore the third country market, and by building more capacities and more sharing more technologies with your private sector. So this is what I think we are going to do as far as China and Pakistan are concerned, but also that this kind of cooperation between China and Pakistan has a regional aspect or regional repercussions or regional benefits for the other countries. Just now, the Lieutenant General also mentioned that there are some kind of challenges. This challenge of COVID-19 is unprecedented. They are changing the world. It is changing the world also in an unprecedented way. For China, for example, the major challenge is that since it is a global economy, it needs global cooperation. But unfortunately, some countries like the United States, I think they are trying to use it as a political tool, instrument for their own political purposes. This could be very damaging because China's economy is not only based on our domestic market. China's economy is also very much depending on the global supply and the global consumption. This is one. Second is that there are some kind of, I should say that this regional conflicts or that the regional hegemons. You can see that, for example, although a lot of discussion about the peace and the stability in Afghanistan, but unfortunately that peace process is still a little stalled. We need more efforts, and like the problems like the Kashmir and all these things, I think they are also still giving additional challenges, additional difficulty for this regional and global economic recoveries. So I think that this global economy is more, I think, is based on the peace and the stability. So that when we are discussing this shared economic recovery, I think that we also should have a sense, a stronger sense of this community of shared future, shared responsibility. And we are faced with these unprecedented challenges like COVID-19. I think the whole international community, especially the regional community, should have a special responsibility for our well-being and also for our future. So this, I think, exactly is the value of today's webinar. And I would like to just conclude here that by thanking again the REF or all the other participants for your kind attention and also your kind advice for China's economy as well as for China-PAC cooperation and the regional economy. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, sir. Yes, unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So thank you, Mr. Ambassador, sir. And you've given us a very detailed overview of the situation and your point of view of your side, and that what we are doing together. Now I will, before I hand over to the proceedings to our moderator, Dr. Samad, I just want to recognize we have two senior diplomats with us also. Ambassador Sanaullah and Ambassador Arif Kamal is also with us. I can see them. And we have our Vice President, Mr. Abrar and Mr. Khalid Mahmood. So they are there. So hello and welcome everybody. We have our, as a panelist, we have good speakers from China. Sir, if you please forgive me, I can if I don't pronounce your name rightly. It's Mr. Jiesheng, I think. And then we have Ambassador Khalid Masood with us. We have Dr. Mr. Almas Haider and Dr. Asin with us. So over to you, Dr. Samad. Now you take over and please proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sayyid Mirza Sahab. And thank you so much, Mr. Respected Ambassador. I'm glad that you developed the stage for the further discussion. So before I invite the panelists, let me thank, and I'm really glad to the Golden Brain Economic Forum for having me for this today moderation. Before I introduce today's panelists, there are a few housekeeping things. Please mute yourself and unmute only when you have asked. And secondly, I request to the panelists, the time allocated for each panelist is approximately 10 minutes. So I would be great that if you can conclude your talk around approximately in 10 minutes, that would be great. Right after the panelist talk, there will be question and answer. And please, the one request for you guys is please highlight to whom you want to ask a specific question. So that would be easy for a moderator that I can address your question directly to the specific panelist. So having said this, let me briefly introduce the four panelists. And this will be the sequence that I will be going to invite the four panelists for today's discourse. But please bear with me. I got a long list of your expertise, and I can see you are a very renowned, relevant experience. But what I did to, for the sake of our time, I will introduce you guys very briefly. So please bear with me. So the first panelist for today is Mr. Cheng Jiangying. Mr. Cheng is the chairman and the CEO of the Beijing Sky Century Information Technology. He is the director of Sky Broadband TV Network based in Beijing. He is a graduate of management from Peking University, and he is honorary president of the World Chamber of Commerce. And finally, he is also a member of China Public Diplomacy Association. So the next panelist for today's discourse is our respected Ambassador Masood Khalid Sahab. Ambassador Masood Khalid Sahab is a senior diplomat of Pakistan Foreign Services. He holds a master's degree in international relations. During his career, respected Ambassador Masood Khalid served in different capacities in different countries and agencies. That includes South Korea, United Nations, Malaysia, in China. His latest tenure as an ambassador to China, that was from 2013 to 2019, where he was directly involved in all the developments related to CPEC, among other activities that has been holding on during those specific tenures. The third panelist for today's discourse is Engineer Almas Haider. Engineer Almas Haider is the leading advocate of creating an ease for businesses environment in the country, and he has been very influential in improving the Pakistan on ease of doing businesses index. And we got a very good news recently about the improvement in the ease of doing businesses index. Mr. Almas Haider graduated from University of Engineering and Technology. He graduated with the OPM program from Harvard Business School. Along with that, Engineer Almas Haider has many caps to his credit that broadly includes contribution in engineering vision 2012 for Pakistan. He was the first president of Quaid-e-Azam Industrial Estate Board, and currently he is the chairman of SPEL Group and also the chairman of the Engineering and Development Board of Pakistan. And our fourth panelist for this today discussion would be Dr. Ahsan Abbas. Dr. Ahsan Abbas is the Senior Research Fellow at the Center of Excellence, CPEC. He has a 20-year of experience in several capacities. He also served at the Planning Commission of Pakistan, Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, Economic Affairs Division of Pakistan, among others. So with this brief introduction, let me call our first panelist, Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Are you there, Mr. Chen?
Mr. Cheng, you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mr. President, Excellency, Mr. Yao Jing, the Ambassador of China to Pakistan. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, in this very special period, I would like to extend my warmest greetings and best wishes to all of you first. This year is probably the most challenging and testing year for human society. With the help of globalization and informatization, almost everyone in human society has experienced the panic-filled valley and brought in insight and deep thinking on the new pandemic situation. As a matter of fact, in China, when the Corona-19 virus broke out in Wuhan, everyone in China was celebrating the traditional Chinese Spring Festival, almost in instant channel switching. The state went into collective collection of whole society, from the top leader of the state to every common people, making decisions quickly, acting quickly, and the people cooperate in an ordered manner. And the epidemic situation has been quickly and effectively sniped. The economy returned to work and the production also began to push forward. Like a people war in which all the people participate in, everyone is winning and everyone contributes to it. Today, China's epidemic situation has been completely controlled. Even some few orchids, it can be controlled with no big spreading. Life has basically returned to normal and the economy has recovered 3.2%. But when we look back in horror, every Chinese is proud of what our country have achieved and deeply appreciate and sincerely salute the outstanding leadership of our great country and our great nation. As a matter of fact, I'm afraid that the Chinese people are not the only ones who personally experienced the world's perception of the pandemic. The people of Pakistan and other countries, just like Chinese people, are experiencing and penetrating the world. Yes, Maybe through this century and the world's major human disaster, and what we found, the totally different behavior of the world, people may no longer just pay attention to what they say, no matter how they describe democracy, freedom, and human rights, or the boasting that has been and is going on will be instantly pierced its beautiful appearance, and eventually restore its true colors in the eyes of the people of the world. At this moment, we're very sad for those who are dying every day. Let's pray for them in silence. I believe that at this moment, all souls in heaven can have a clear insight into the beautiful rose neck of civilization frauding and the moral boasting. Today, when we work together to explore the economic recovery of human society under the severe attack of a pandemic, I'm afraid we are not only thinking about mutual economy leverage, mutual linkage of resources, and mutual integration of policy. However, we should know the deepest structural problems facing human society through the disaster of all mankind. Only by this insight and awareness and reconstructing the correct guidance leading the times forward can human beings go back to the road of a harmonious coexistence of recovery and prosperity, and avoid repeated natural and man-made disasters. In fact, today's international conference is not only a search for economic recovery, but also a spiritual self-examination of the human society led by civilization. It is a life-threatening question facing human society in world of a pandemic situation, because thousands of lives die in pain every day. Just a few days ago, I visited an 88-year-old village hut in my hometown in Zhejiang province. His words touched me very much and also represented the impression of most Chinese people after the pandemic. He said that through the spread of a pandemic in the world, I have learned from my 88 years of life what is really people-centered, and the country, our country protect all the Chinese people's life with no reservation, with no negotiation, and with regardless of cost, which is the highest interest of the Communist Party of China and the government. This is not a slogan, but a rapid action and an indisputable choice. We are more convinced that this is the belief and the fairness that our country and our party always have, because the party and the government of China are convinced of such ruling philosophy. That is, people win, then the country win. People lost, then the country lost. Obviously, today's world has become a community of shared will and woe. And the reality of globalization has no room to be alone. The pandemic situation has more thoroughly and unambiguously interpreted what is the real meaning of establishing a community with a shared future for mankind. Meanwhile, China's policy on new economy, new industry, and a new technology is still not just a slogan, but a real manifestation or practice of a concept of establishing the community with shared future for mankind. All the aid and responsibility action and initiative of China, together with the world, to defeat the COVID-19 virus, including China announcement that the vaccine of COVID-19 as the human public health products, and give priority to the use of American countries. Yeah, our ambassador also talking about China's new technology, new industry planning in China. For example, the 5G, blockchains, and the big digit technology, and Beidou satellite navigation system. All this and the digital currency of the Central Bank of China, all this new technology, new infrastructure planning in China, all basis on the new concept of establishing a community with a shared future for mankind. It's totally different from the traditional capital society's pursuit of one-sided and exclusive profit mode. Yes, as early as 200 and 500 years ago in the spring and autumn period in China history, Chinese ancient ancestors put forward the rule of the universe is beneficial to all life in the world. Yes, so I think now the open mind and attitudes to other civilizations of Chinese civilization are the cultural origin leading to the continuous progress of Chinese people, especially the 17 years after founding of New China. Along with the advantage of a traditional culture has been constantly absorbing and integrating the advanced achievement of a different civilization in the world. We have not only explored the road of civilization and progress that can benefit the Chinese nation, but also provide the civilized resource that can be used for reference and shared by the world. The combination of the world's present situation and deep structure determine the future direction of the world, and the structural combination of the future direction of the world also tests the strategic choice and structural orientation of each country, especially great power, because only such combination can bring a country's grasp of the future and the choice of the reality, and even sometimes it may be the painful choices, which can be regarded as the foundation of our country's strategic future. Now let's focus on the Golden Ring Economic Forum. I would like to make a few points. One, Golden Ring is a very creative conception in terms of economy. I think there will be no problem in its operation. Second, however, the key to the effective transformation of a Golden Ring depends on the final strategic position of our country, or our countries. Third, in operation, how to ensure the stability of our countries, including your country, Pakistan, China, maybe is very, very important to the success of our suggestion for the Golden Ring. Fourth, while starting the development of a Golden Ring group, we should also think about how to embed the ring heart. We know Central Asia known as the heart of Eurasia. The long-term and overall problems of the development of the New World Order landed by the Golden Ring after ring core is embedded. In fact, thinking and arranging the Golden Ring can affect the concern, the support of Central Asia in advance. Finally, my suggestions are as follows. One, I think now is really the time for us, for China, for Iran, for Pakistan, for Russia, for all of us to working together to ensure each other's economic security and stability. Now is the time. Second, in addition, the joint policy of economic cooperation should be an out-of-box solution. I can suggest that does not involve the euro and the US dollar. It can be a pure barter transaction, not involving any currency, or through a common currency, which can create a financial impact transmitted through income and profit directly. Third, Pakistan can play an important role in the Golden Ring project, also in the respect for China, Pakistan, and Russia. But how can Pakistan maintain its basic stability at the level of a Golden Ring? Maybe it's a question, it's a problem. I think this is also the question that the Pakistan entrepreneurs and the strategists here, everyone need to answer. Even though it's a weak starting point with a small pace from Golden Ring today, I think it is their destiny to be a reconstruction era of a new world. We believe that by starting from the Golden Ring and then expand to Central Asia, and then to all Asia, and then to Africa, and then to Latin America, and even to all the world. Along with China's Belt and Road Initiative, we definitely will meet the new and bright future of mankind. Yes, we have reason to be full of confidence in the future of a human society from now on. That's all for my speech. Thank you, President. Thank you, everybody. And then later, maybe I'd like to join discussion for some cooperation in the special time for China economy and Pakistan. For you see, now in my hometown in Hangzhou, Hangzhou, Zhejiang province is very close to the Changjiang River Delta economy zone, is very developed. And as we know, that the government of Zhejiang is now promoting to set up one zone for Belt and Road Economic Cooperation. And our TV Sky TV station also join in this cooperation. What we do is that we send the zone, cooperation zone for Belt and Road Initiative will invite 65 countries to set up its own economy cooperation zone to promoting your economy items, projects, and your policy for inviting Chinese investors to your country. And meanwhile, to expect your products, your culture in Hangzhou. For example, Hangzhou is, just as I've said, it's very, very developed economy zone in Zhejiang, in China. So maybe what do we do, the economic cooperation zone in Zhejiang, just the basis on the new situation under the Corona-19 attacking time. So maybe next I will continue to enjoy the discussion with all of you here about the detailed cooperation for Chinese economy and your country and other country, and especially for the Golden Ring project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chen, and thank you so much for your very, very optimistic message at the end. And I'm glad that you walk us through the very important key messages. I would say that you very thoroughly and commendably highlighted the unprecedented situation that a People's Republic of China has been facing. And I'm glad that you brought the point that how you can, like slowly and gradually, but now recovery stage with 3-point-something recovery. That is again a very promising message that you brought for us. And the good thing from your discussion that was how you guys are bringing all those different recoveries to the cooperation that has been doing through different, the community level or at the institution level. So that is again a very clear and commendable. And I appreciate at the end that you highlighted the relevance of the China economic policies. That is how much this is important, not only for the People's Republic of China, but for the region as well. So definitely, before I go to the next panelist, let me now introduce the next panelist for today, who is Ambassador Masood Khalid. So I already introduced him at the beginning. So now, sir, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Sir, please unmute yourself if you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now.
Ni hao to His Excellency Ambassador Yao Jing and our Chinese friends, and Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and distinguished audience. First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this important topic. The panelists before me spoke in very specific terms on what China can do bilaterally with Pakistan as well as regionally, and the essence of how the Chinese society is taking the challenge of this pandemic. And my colleague Ambassador Yao Jing was also in his detailed discourse, highlighted what is important in the context of regional cooperation, in the context of this golden ring mechanism which is proposed. Now, I have been, a practitioner of diplomacy all my professional life. So you may find so I would like to share my thoughts, but you may find some of my ideas very radical. Nonetheless, I fully agree that we should develop mechanisms and viable platforms for regional cooperation. So let me share my thinking with you. Now, it goes without saying that COVID pandemic has not only created worldwide havoc in terms of human life and social discontents, its adverse effects on global economy are already now clearly visible. I was reading a figure today given by a Chinese friend that total estimated economic damage would be about $11.5 trillion as of now. So this is the estimated figure. And we are all seeing that US and European economies are facing recession. IMF is projecting, forecasting contraction in the most powerful economies, while the weaker economies are, of course, would face the brunt. But it's not yet possible, in my view, to fully assess the impact this pandemic will have on global economy, as everything is in flux. Things are in flux. And the disease, its containment, would depend how long it lasts and whether the world succeeds in discovering a vaccine. Of course, efforts are going on, and we all pray and hope that this happens soon. But one thing is certain, that the pandemic's aftermath will be severe in both political and economic terms for the developed countries, and in particular for weaker economies or poorer countries. Post-pandemic world order will be quite different, as earlier speakers have mentioned, and would depend on how two major powers, in my view, major economies, United States and China, work out their relations. The rest of the world will have to make adjustments in their economic and foreign policies. So in that sense, we are living in uncertain times. It is unfortunate that the world, which should have been united to jointly confront this scourge, is witnessing an upcoming upheaval due to tensions between China and the United States. Their relations are now on a roller coaster. Of course, these relations have faced their ups and downs historically, but now they are at their lowest ebb since 1970s, when rapprochement started between the two countries. We see a blame game against China and issues from COVID-19 to trade, intellectual property rights, human rights, cyber crimes, to name a few. This one-sided campaign, this one-sided tirade against China has been taken to a point of frenzy. China has been declared as a revisionist power, a strategic rival, and US Secretary of State Pompeo, in a recent speech, described China as a threat to international system, a threat to global community. So this US approach has not only divided its Atlantic allies who do not wish to choose sides between China and the United States due to compelling political, economic, and commercial reasons, but it has also created a sense of serious concern in the global community about this, how would I say, this kind of offensive, campaign. US Trump administration's policy is destabilizing the international system, and in my view, is too simplistic or naive to the extent of conceiving that it will succeed or damage China, whose global footprint is now an acknowledged and well-established reality. Sane voices in the United States have questioned this divisive approach, but it appears that this belligerence is unlikely to end and may even continue even beyond the American elections. So we are seeing a drift in US-China relations, which may be difficult to reverse and may even lead, in my view, to some kind of, hopefully not, but some kind of military confrontation. Well, I'm not going into the causes for this increasingly ominous tensions, but simply trying to highlight that global economic recovery will be undermined if tensions escalate further. No single country can cope with the problems faced by the world today. There is a lot of wisdom when Chinese leaders say that cooperation will benefit both United States and China, and confrontation, on the other hand, will hurt both. President Xi Jinping the other day, while addressing the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, said that the issues emerging from globalization, countries need to pursue more inclusive global governance, more effective multilateral institutions, and more robust regional cooperation. The world cannot afford unilateralism, protectionism, and one side wins all approach. This will not work. And I think there's a lot of pragmatism and realism in Chinese pronouncements. China bashing in the US is also not comprehensible, since both powers have strong economic linkages, from a trade of nearly $700 billion to almost 500,000 Chinese students who are contributing to US Treasury. These are just two examples. US businesses are benefiting from economic collaboration with China through export of agriculture products to manufacturing of IT products, joint ventures in automobiles, etc. And US industry is quite dependent on China. So US administration is opposing China not only on bilateral issues, but also on projects like G5, while it is pressurizing, its European partners. And there are other extremes too. US is strongly opposed, for example, to a gas pipeline project from Russia to Germany. I mean, one would have taken a different view if it was only brinksmanship to extract concessions from its rivals. But hostility against China has come down to now, boiled down to serious punitive actions. Indeed, this will lead to more disorder and disarray in international system. Short of pushing the world to a brink, this policy is unrealistic as well as untenable. So this is the context, this is the overall backdrop in which we should analyze the prospects of economic recovery. I feel that regional cooperation based on mutually compatible and mutually beneficial outcomes are the answer. And I very much welcome the spirit of this initiative by Graf. China's Belt and Road Initiative offers one such opportunity for win-win outcomes. Its coverage is extensive and promoting both physical connectivity and people-to-people connectivity between different regions. Of course, Pakistan is a partner in the CPAC, which is this flagship project of Belt and Road, and CPAC's tangible results are before us. Secondly, Pakistan geography provides us to be a natural bridge between different regions, between China and Afghanistan, China and the Middle East, China and Central Asia, China and Africa. So we are at the center of economic activity, which needs to be mobilized regionally. An additional advantage is the membership of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which offers us another opportunity to utilize that platform for regional economic cooperation. We have excellent ties with China, which is our trusted partner and a trusted friend, and China wants to share the fruits of its development with its partner countries. Our relations with Russia have also improved in recent years. Iran is our neighbor with which we have historically good relations, cultural relations. So all of us wish to see peace and stability in Afghanistan so that the full potential of this region, Southwest Asia, is realized. Indeed, the region will benefit more if another neighbor, big neighbor, India, adopts a responsible attitude and instead of fanning hatred and hostility, promotes cooperation with its neighbors. China and Russia are big countries, big economies, major economies. Central Asian countries, my friend just mentioned that Central Asia is very important, and Iran is rich in hydrocarbon resources, Central Asia is rich. Pakistan also has a huge potential to become a trade and energy hub. Our relevance and importance in regional equation cannot be underplayed or minimized. We have successfully tackled the problem of terrorism. In the fields of trade and finance, energy and water security, agriculture, and food sectors, there are numerous opportunities which need to be explored regionally through collective efforts. This will also help, of course, struggling economies affected by a pandemic. I see a lot of complementary opportunities through cash trade, barter trade, and we have currency swap mechanisms to evolve a viable mechanism for cooperation. Given the capacity and resources and expertise of China and its technological development, I think China can take an initiative to promote such cooperation, which will help boost all our economies. And I must add, is another important point that apart from state-to-state interaction, we'll have to mobilize our private sectors to their full potential. The regional chamber of commerce can be considered. We can also set up a joint body at the experts level to study prospects of cooperation, which we are envisaging in trade, transport, communications, agriculture, banking and finance, education, and more importantly, health, as well as tourism. We will need to identify those sectors which are beneficial to all partners based on their respective strengths. And I think realistic and pragmatic targets need to be fixed. We can, for example, help Afghanistan to rehabilitate its war-ravaged economy. And Afghanistan is also rich in natural resources, mineral resources that can also be tapped. And Pakistan is already doing it. I think it was mentioned that already the port of Gwadar is now being used happily for the Afghan transit trade. This clearly shows the potential of this port for interregional connectivity. So in my view, I would say, before concluding, that a targeted approach will be required to overcome the adversity by us inflicted by this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I think let me very briefly summarize the points that you brought for the discussion. That you rightly mentioned that how the adverse impact basically this COVID-19 brought for us. And in terms of the number, it's a huge, humongous numbers are there. You are perfectly right. The fluid nature of this COVID is again bringing a lot of attention for both the developed and the developing countries, and that is something that is again unprecedented for us. The U.S. and China unrest situation is again a thing that we need to consider, and I agree with you. The repercussion that can bring in for the global trade is again something that needs to be considered. The third point that you rightly highlighted about the allegation against China, perfectly, sir, you are right. These are the allegations that have been against China, but of course, we for sure know that most of them, they are wrong allegations. And finally, the important role that you brought for this discussion is the promising role of the China that can play in this region for this economic and political prosperity is a plus. So I'm again thankful, sir, for your nice points in discussion, and hopefully we will have a question from the audience for you. So just wait for us for the question. So now I introduce the third panelist for today, who is Engineer Almas Haider. So sir, the floor is yours for 10 minutes.